Hello everybody and welcome back. Today I'm drawing the rock that we used to smash things on when I was a kid. Now, if you're of a certain vintage, then you will remember the world as it existed before the internet really took hold. Now, don't get me wrong, the internet existed when I was a kid. It was just, through the 80s and 90s, it was just kind of a new thing. It was, I think in the 80s and even back in the 70s, it was more of a messaging service between schools and, just for like emails basically is all you could do with it. As far as I'm aware, I'm not an expert on this by any means. So, if you know better than me, let me know down in the comments. But back then, the internet wasn't really a part of our daily lives. It didn't really become a part of our daily lives until much later, for me, like, early 2000s, maybe 99 at the earliest. I think I was playing some of the early online games back then. But, we didn't watch movies on the internet. We still, rented VHS tapes, all that kind of stuff. So when I was a kid, we didn't have, there were a lot of, the options were limited. You had to kind of find your own fun where you could find it, right? And for the most part, for me, that involved, riding around on bicycle, getting into things that I wasn't supposed to get into, just wreaking havoc in general. And one year we moved to this part of town that was kind of, I don't know, a little more rural. It wasn't rural necessarily, but it was a little less densely populated, let's say. And my buddy lived about 3 miles away across the train tracks. And I would, hop on my bike or just walk and make my way over there. Well, on my way over there, I think it was like there was like a corner you had to turn. It was basically a straight shot all the way down the road. There was a corner you had to turn right on to get to his house. And on the left-hand side of the street, right there at the corner, there was this big, giant, open, empty field, right? And out in the middle of that field, there was this big boulder. I remember it being massive when I think about it, but it might, I'd probably look at it and be pretty underwhelmed today because I was a lot smaller back then. I was like maybe 12 or something. And, but I remember it was just this giant, like 3 foot tall boulder out, and it was kind of in a clearing, right? The field was like a bunch of overgrown grass. And then there was like a little bit of it was like almost directly in the center. I remember there was a little bit of a clearing and there was this boulder out there. And so I would go over to my friend's house and, we would meet up and, ride bikes or play video games, whatever. And sometimes we would end up hanging out in this field, when we got sick of playing Mortal Kombat, because how many times can you play Mortal Kombat before you get sick of it? It's quite a few, but eventually you do get sick of it. And when you're a kid, you don't have any money to buy cartridges. Video game cartridges were kind of surprisingly expensive back then too, by the way. You did get a finished video game when you bought a video game cartridge for the most part, unlike today. So it's kind of a trade-off, 6 in one, half a dozen the other. But back then it seemed like when you bought a video game cartridge, it was really expensive, but it was a complete video game. And anyways, that's completely besides the point. We would eventually get sick of playing video games. We didn't have money to go see a movie or whatever, so we would just kind of ride around on our bikes and see what kind of mischief we could get into. And, one day we were playing around in the field and we found the boulder, right? And it's sitting there. There's like maybe a log next to it, some barbed wire like tangled up. And, so it looked like maybe some homeless people had been out there a little bit, like, barbecuing or not barbecuing, cooking beans on a campfire or something. I don't know. But there was an old whiskey bottle there. And I think this was the first time we'd hung out at the boulder, and I grabbed the old whiskey bottle, and I was like, you know what'd be super cool? I'm just going to smash this whiskey bottle on the boulder. And so, yeah, I, wound it up and chucked the whiskey bottle right at the boulder, exploded into a million pieces, and one of the pieces came back and just sliced my knuckle open. I still have a pretty large scar on my knuckle from it. It's this kind of J-shaped scar on my left there. It's kind of hard to see now, but in the right light you can kind of see it. But yeah, and it just sliced, a piece of glass flew back and sliced my knuckle open, and there's a flap of skin, and oh my God, I thought I was gonna die. I was like turning white and pale, about ready to pass out because of this flap of skin hanging off of my knuckle. And I don't think I had to go get stitches or anything. I think it was, minor enough where we just kind of stuck a Band-Aid on it, and maybe I should have gotten stitches. I don't, it seemed like it healed up fine. So anyways, so that was the first time. And then after that, us being kids, we would find things, laying around the neighborhood. Maybe somebody left something sitting out next to their garbage can, or I remember a good spot to find stuff was out behind the Goodwill. There was like a dumpster behind the Goodwill, and the people who worked there would like just set stuff out by, I don't know if they were like throwing it away or leaving it there for people like dumpster divers to come find, but maybe it was stuff they didn't want at the Goodwill or what, I don't know. I didn't ask. I should have probably asked, because I think technically it was stealing, but we would go out there behind the Goodwill and we would grab, old toasters and, coffee makers and, sports equipment, bats, hockey sticks and golf clubs. And we would take it out on our bikes and we would smash it on the boulder. And that was like, that was a good afternoon, that was a good time, and we just loved smashing stuff on that boulder. And I don't know, is that still fun? I think I would still like smashing stuff on a boulder. I still like playing video games too, I like the internet, watching the movies and all that stuff, it's much more readily available now, but there's something, like I just miss, the something about just being bored and finding something stupid to do that I feel like it doesn't exist anymore. Maybe it does. I am also 40. I'm not a kid anymore. So, maybe there are kids out there smashing shit on boulders, and I just, am not welcome to their smashing party. Not that I would want to hang out with a bunch of kids smashing shit. It'd probably be pretty annoying. But anyway, so that's what my drawing is. This is the boulder and all of the things I could think of that we smashed on it. And yeah, and it was a good time. It was a different world. I feel like I grew up in a different world than we live in today. And I'm sure people that are older than me are like, yeah, dude, of course, like, duh. Because they, I grew up in the 80s and 90s, like that was probably crazy different from growing up in the 50s or 60s or 70s. And I think my dad was talking about, because I was talking about how we used to have to rent VHS tapes, and he's like, yeah, well, when I was a kid, that wasn't even an option, like if you wanted to go see a movie, you had to go to the theater, and then when his dad was a kid, I don't even know when he born in the early 1900s. When did they start doing movie theaters? It was probably late 1800s. I don't know. But anyways, I'm not trying to figure out history right now. Well, I kind of am. I don't know what I'm trying to figure out here. Anyways, so it was a different world that we lived in. And I don't know, there was something about growing up without the internet that I don't know if I'm grateful for it or not grateful for it, but it just felt like the being less connected to everything felt more natural to me, if that makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense to you guys, but it felt like more like a more natural state of humanity than how we exist today. At least how I exist today, because I'm very much online on the internet all the time, and it's kind of it feels like a hollow existence. So you're completely connected to everything. You have everything at your fingertips, but really the reality of it is you're just sitting there in a room staring at a screen, Whereas, when I was a kid, I was out doing things, and I was interfacing with reality, like in a tangible way, and I don't know. It's something that I feel like I'm missing now, And I do now that we've adopted a dog. I get a little bit of that, which is nice. I get to go out and walk the dog and go to the park and stuff like that, which is, maybe I should just take some stuff with me and smash it at the park and see what the other pedestrians at the park think of that. I bet my dog would think it was pretty cool. But anyway, so yeah, this is the boulder and all the junk kind of. I don't know why I imagined it. It's like it's the ghosts of the junk kind of. That one's a taco right there I just drew. It's like the maybe not the ghosts, but like, I don't know. I love drawing things like just kind of floating in air like that for some reason. I'm not sure why. I should have, if I had it to do over again, I would put some stuff overlapping the boulder, like maybe a couple items right in front of it. That's my only nitpick. But I was just drawing this without a sketch, and, just kind of making up the idea as I was going along. So yeah. And I had this whole like story about a boulder through time, and yeah, I tried to record it, and like the boulder was there in the beginning, and it'll be there when there's no more children left to smash rocks or smash stuff on rocks. Anyways, whatever. It's not the story I told. This is the story you get. But thanks for watching. Thank you to my patrons on Patreon. If you're interested in that, go ahead and check it out in the link below, and I will see you all in the next video.